Well, welcome to the Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee for our first meeting of 2026. My last session as Commerce Chair. Welcome back, Ranking Member Dames and all members of the committee. We have one new member and a couple of new staffers. At this time, I'll go to Senator Heintzman for an introduction.
Hi, everybody. I'm Senator Carrie Heintzman. I represent the Brainerd Lakes area on up to Grand Rapids. Looking forward to today's hearing.
We welcome you to the committee. We have two new pages, Jillian Cherney and Paige Cox, if you can wave. Welcome to the committee. We will start our work this afternoon with Senate File 3670. It is before us. Senator Port is online. Yeah. Senator Port, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the invitation to join online so I can get back to my own committee quickly. Members, in front of you today is Senate File 3670. When low-dose hemp edibles and products were pulled into the new adult use cannabis chapter of law, we allowed them to continue testing at out-of-state facilities that are accredited with our same standards until January 1st, 2026. What we're seeing right now is we only have two new chapter of law here in Minnesota, and with the adult use products and the medical products needing to go through those testing labs, we're seeing a bottleneck at the testing labs. And so what this bill does is it allows those low dose hemp products to continue to be tested at those out-of-state accredited labs that we have been working with, that those manufacturers have been working with for several years until May 31st of 2027. So that moves us through next year through session, just in case we wouldn't have enough labs up and running by that point. That's all this bill does. It is pretty simple. There is a letter of support from the brewers, the craft brewers, in your packets. And that's the bill, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Port. Members, the plan is to pass this directly to the floor so that we can update these dates rather expeditiously. We have one testifier. I welcome Director Eric Taubel from OCM. Welcome to the committee. Introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Eric Taubel. I'm the Executive Director for the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. I'm here today to testify in support of Senate File 3670. We're supporting the bill for three key reasons. The first is that this provides operational clarity to businesses who are facing a challenging future in light of recent federal definitional changes to hemp. When the federal government reopened in November of 2025, the Agricultural Appropriation Bill made some changes to the way hemp is defined. That definition originated in the 2018 Farm Bill and created the opportunity for the products that we're talking about today, the low-potency hemp products, the beverages and edibles you may find in grocery stores, gas stations, liquor stores, and bars and restaurants. When they reopened the government, the federal government redefined what hemp includes, changing some of the things in terms of how many milligrams of THC are available. This will have functionally the effect of killing off this industry as an interstate operation and limiting it really to intrastate operations. Because of that ambiguity, this change creates a lot of clarity for operators as they try to either wind down their businesses in light of federal changes or make pivots to a new business model that likely focuses on intrastate operations. The other thing that the other reason we support this is, as Senator Port noted, there's currently a little bit of a delay in the two licensed testing facilities being able to turn cannabis and hemp tests around in a timely fashion. Removing the hemp products made in Minnesota or sold in Minnesota from that queue will alleviate some of that bottleneck and increase the speed at which we'll get cannabis test results back to cannabis operators to better help launch the nascent cannabis market. Finally, we would just note that this particular change, we think, is a smart legislative approach to a time-bound problem. As Senator Port noted, we anticipate additional capacity coming online shortly, which should alleviate some of the current delays that are experiencing at testing facilities. And by moving the deadline out to the end of next session, we effectively solve for the current problem without foregoing what I think was smart legislative design by the Minnesota legislature to require products bought, sold, and purchased by Minnesotans to be tested by labs that are licensed by the OCM, overseen by the OCM, and that can be subject to inspection and other actions by OCM. So for those reasons, we support this piece of legislation, and obviously, if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director. Are there questions from the membership? Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Director Tobble. What's your level of confidence in these other laboratories and their ability to accurately report what is contained in these products? Do you have any concerns around impacts to health and safety?
Director Tobble.
So broadly speaking, one of the concerns we're seeing nationwide in the cannabis and hemp industries is some level of concern about the efficacy of laboratory testing, which is why I note that the office thinks this particular change is smart because it creates a small additional window rather than reimagining the entire method and process. The language that is already in there that expired on January 1 of this year had specific conditions that help address those concerns, notably that it has to be an ISO or International Standards Organization accredited lab in order to test for these products. The idea being that those accreditations require a certain level of scientific veracity. And so certainly, feel better about Minnesota labs, which we exercise regulatory authority over. But there are ways to ensure and require that labs that are doing these tests meet certain standards. And then I would also note, too, that the market itself has used these facilities since inception. And so, you know, the sort of ongoing level of concern about that is sort of consistent that would just sort of, you know, continue to be present. It wouldn't increase or decrease based on this change.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up for Director Tobble. Have you found any illegal product that has been verified by one of these laboratories?
Director Tobble.
So in the course of our sort of inspection and oversight, when we find product that is sort of non-compliant product, it tends to be non-compliant on its face in terms of its packaging suggests it's over the legal amount. So it might be a product that advertises, you know, for instance, a gummy having 60, 70, 80 milligrams of THC, which is in excess of what our laws allow. And so in those cases, we're less concerned with the underlying testing results because the package itself is indicating that the product was non-compliant from the start. We've done a number of COA reviews where we go through products to ensure that the COAs accurately reflect the THC limits that we are seeing or requiring in state law. Broadly speaking, the biggest concern in most cannabis and hemp testing facilities, more cannabis than hemp, is actually THC potency inflation, where the market seeks out higher potency products, and so people want testing that says the product is a higher potency. Because of Minnesota's innovative regulatory approach to the hemp market, which set relatively low caps on servings of 5 milligrams, it's really the case that the prominent examples we see of laboratory malfeasance don't necessarily operate in this particular market because the goal here is lower potency, not higher. But to your point, one of the things that we are constantly aware of is ensuring that COAs are accurate, that they reflect the product that was tested. When we find COAs that we think have been doctored or adulterated, we will refer them to local law enforcement. There's in the old section 15172, a misdemeanor for the adulteration or doctoring of a COA or a certificate of analysis, which is the testing form.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Tobble. Just one final question. I guess if these other laboratories that are accredited are doing, as you're purporting, a good job of verifying the content of these products, I guess, will these other in-state facilities do a better job, or will they do the same job? I guess I'm just trying to understand what the trade-offs are between
Yeah.
using these different types of labs.
Director Tauble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Rasmussen, I think the trade-off really I think as we're thinking about this and why the time-bound nature makes sense. The first is, at present, the authority is expired, and so we have to test everything in state right now, which is impacting bottleneck. And because we've seen a relatively low amount of problems from using certified out-of-state testing facilities for these products, we think there's a relatively low-risk proposition related to public health. That said, long-term and future-looking, I think it's always best if the regulator has as many levers of control as possible over the people operating in the regulated industry, which is why I think the in-state testing approach is long-term the right approach. In the particular case we're in now, too, that sort of federal change really complicates a number of things just because the market is changing in such potentially sort of massive ways where anybody who currently has a substantial amount of product, on the cannabis side, it's not ideal to wait 3 to 6 weeks for test results to return. But after that 6 weeks, the market will be there and the market will continue to be there for years to come. For these hemp operators, the turnaround times could be cataclysmic if you're sitting on substantial product related to a testing sample and we reach November 12th when the federal definition changes and the products become federally illegal.
Senator Rasmussen, good. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question, and I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but what happens into the future? Because I don't see anything that actually is going to improve the amount of testing that we're seeing here. And so if we're going to push this off for another year and a half, basically, at the end of that year and a half, if nothing changes, do you anticipate that there's going to be less testing? Or are you going to come back and try to get it to be extended again? Because at some point, it's going to have to work.
Right.
Director Tauble.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, thank you for the question. I would say that my confidence is pretty high that we're in line to add additional testing capacity soon. I had our testing group pull together some data and information to talk about the pipeline because I think it's a natural question in this discussion. We currently have the 2 licensed applicants that can do a full panel, which means they can do every test that we require for cannabis and hemp. We have 1 licensed lab that does 1 particular portion, which is just basically testing how much THC is in the product. We have 5 applicants that are pre-approved, which means they're ready to take the last step. They just have to locate a facility and submit their sort of final status to us. We also have 2 labs that are really promising that we anticipate having licensed relatively soon that were entrants into the market after the office had closed its initial application window. The office has been concerned about this testing capacity really since inception, and so we've created a number of legislative proposals which the legislature has engaged in and given us the authority to do. We've also done direct outreach to labs that are kind of in border states where they're operating in North Dakota or Wisconsin to incentivize them to kind of come over to Minnesota and get licensed. And at least one of those we believe is close. They've submitted their sort of final plans of record, which is sort of outline how their business will run. For the labs, the last step is something we call method validation, where they submit the underlying scientific results of the tests they do to prove to us that the test repeatedly and consistently provides accurate and reliable results. Of the, I think it's 10 labs we have in the preliminary approval, the near next final step, we have at least 2 that we are in the talks to get them towards license in the coming weeks and months. And then a second sort of wave of about 4 that we're actively talking with and helping them move towards that licensure. So I have high confidence that we'll be able to onboard additional capacity. The other, I think, reality is that market dynamics are at play, which is that there is a substantial demand in the market right now for accurate testing that can turn around efficiently. And so participants in bordering states are seeing that demand in Minnesota and starting to open facilities within the borders.
Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do you monitor or audit the testing facilities to make sure that the tests that you're getting out are accurate?
Director Talbot.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, it's a great question. And Minnesota is doing something that other states took 3, 4, 5 years into legalization to do, which is in the 2024 legislative session, the office proposed and the legislature passed, the governor signed a bill to create what we call a statewide reference lab. That lab isn't a for-profit lab. It's housed, I think, in the Department of Agriculture. We have an IAA with them. And we'll be going throughout the state. We've already started this process. We go throughout the state to licensed cultivators, licensed manufacturers, licensed retailers. We pick up samples, whether it's, clip them off the branches, grab some of the concentrate from the manufacturing facility, or picking finished final products up off the shelves. We take them back to our testing facility and we test them on the exact same panels that they were required to pass in order to ensure they meet the market standards. And so we'll have a kind of real-time system-wide health check on what's happening using that statewide reference lab as kind of a referee to make sure our labs are testing correctly. And then if we start to find inaccuracies, if for instance our reference lab is showing higher than allowed amounts of pesticides in certain products, we'll go back to the lab that passed those tests and do an inspection, look through their scientific records, and make sure that the method that they said they were using to run that test is the actual method they're using. And that reference lab model is one that other states with legalized markets have seen as integral to ensuring that testing isn't just kind of theater. It's not just like, oh, it's tested, but you can actually validate that the processes used in the test run are accurate and reliable.
One more question, Mr. Chair.
Senator Green.
Are there penalties in place for those who label or consistently get the wrong results?
Director.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, it's a great question. I am indebted to the legislature for the broad enforcement authority that this office was granted. We have really, really strong mechanisms to take action against license holders who violate any section of the statute. For testing labs, those kind of things where consistent results that are incorrect or results that they're pushing as positive tests when they actually failed, the office would take incredibly serious and engage in, I think, up to and including the full measure of enforcement authority we have, which would include the either suspension of a license and testing ability or the full termination of that license for that kind of behavior.
Any other questions from membership? Members, there are no further questions. Thank you, Director Taubel. Thank you, Senator Port. The question now is on the motion of Senator Seeberger that Senate File 3670 be recommended to pass and sent to the Senate floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion is adopted and the bill is on orders. Next up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Port. Next up, we have Senator Latz, Senate File 3545. Welcome to the committee, Chair Latz. Senate File 3545 is in front of us. To your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. St. Louis Park and the University of Minnesota both have provisions in this bill that I wanted to get passed last year, but we ran into political problems getting the votes in the House in particular because of one very controversial provision that was in the broader liquor bill. And there were some other broader provisions in the bill at the time also that carried statewide implications, and there was some concern among both Senate members and I know House members as well. So in order to get the provisions that I cared most about through, I stripped what I thought were, well, all of the statewide provisions and what I thought were most or all of the controversial provisions out of the broader liquor bill and introduced just a bill containing the one-offs. The local provisions that would allow for one change in one county or one municipality. And that's basically what you have before you now. We have passed it before, although I think there was one provision when it did pass that might have still raised some concerns. The biggest concern is apparently what's not in the bill. But what I'm trying to do is put together a bill that contains local provisions only, is largely non-controversial, that will take care of our needs in our own districts, and that's what you have before you. I've got two provisions. I can speak to them individually, or I also have testifiers here for each of them, and happy to follow the chair's lead on that.
Thank you, Senator Latz. And just for full clarification for the committee, I think you already said this in your comments, but this is all the local projects that were included at end of session last year, nothing new, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. I think we'll go to testifiers then, and I'll start with Patty Wall. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Wall. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm Patty Wall, the owner and operator of the Malcolm Yards Food Hall near the University of Minnesota. Last year, I testified in support of two pieces of legislation that are included in this bill today. The provisions would allow a food hall liquor license to be granted in St. Louis Park and downtown Minneapolis. These provisions have the support of each of the cities, and we have not heard of any concerns. To the contrary, in both instances, the city and the businesses nearby are excited, as well as many other people. They keep asking. I hope that we can find a way to get this done this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. Senator Carla Nelson is our next testifier. Senator Latz.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, to this was park provision that is in my district, and the West End in St. Louis Park has space ready to go for this. It'd be a terrific addition to our community, and we hope that we can get it passed this year.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Nelson, please introduce yourself. Proceed.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm State Senator Carla Nelson, and I'm coming before you with one provision that you passed last year in Senator Latz's bill. And I commend Senator Latz for putting this bill together. These are things that had passed the Senate before, and I also would be remiss if I didn't mention Senator Bolden, who also is in support. And over in the House, we have Senators Smith and Senator Hicks as well. So, members, this is the Chateau Theater, downtown Rochester. We're looking for that liquor license. Certainly, you'll recall last year the city was here testifying in support of this, as was the Downtown Alliance. And the challenge is the Chateau Theater, it was built in 1927, 1500, vaudeville seating. It's a theater that we've been able to keep, and it's beautiful, quite frankly. I hope you come down and see it. But the challenge is it doesn't quite meet the exact definition of theater in our statutes. And so this is the city of Rochester asking for a license for the historic Chateau Theater. I'll be glad to entertain any questions that you might have, but it's really, truly remarkable. And I just say I hope you can come down and see it. But we do know how important it would be to have that liquor license as well.
Thank you, Senator, and I know you've been pushing this for a long time, so I appreciate the work you've done on it. Next up is Amy Karen from the University of Minnesota. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Karen. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today. For the record, I am Amy Karen, Director of Contract Administration at the University of Minnesota. As Senator Latz stated, the University of Minnesota is seeking changes to our liquor licensing for our system. This bill does 4 things for the university. First, it eliminates the cap on the number of licenses available to the university. We currently only have 1 available license, but there are many needs across the system. Second, it addresses licenses for non-contiguous spaces. As an example, the Duluth campus has had to be limited to only the Kirby Center as a compact and contiguous space. But the language would allow the university to obtain a license for multiple locations on campuses and potentially also the Glenshee Mansion, which would allow the university additional opportunities to cover the cost of the license. Third, it adds the concessionaires to the license. The current process of the university has limitations that may be addressed by allowing the concessionaire to hold the license. If the university were to choose this option, it would allow for operational efficiencies such as inventory, reporting, and purchasing, giving the involvement of our food service providers in serving alcohol in our licensed venues. Lastly, it removes the restriction for alcohol sales on the St. Paul campus. Removal of this restriction creates consistency with other food and beverage sales currently offered at the meat and dairy sales room, which features products developed through the university's College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences. This practice helps further important research on grain, hops, which are both part of the Minnesota agricultural landscape. These changes would align with the current law governing Minnesota's private universities, colleges, providing parity for the university, allowing the Board of Regents and ultimately the Commissioner of Public Safety the authority to make the decisions on appropriate licenses, will permit the needs of all campuses to be reviewed and considered while maintaining appropriate oversight of the licensing process.
Thank you, Ms. Karen.
Thank you.
We'll go now to member amendments, and we'll start with Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have the A2 amendment.
Members, the A2 is in your packets. Senator Dames offers the A2 to your amendment.
The A2 amendment, Mr. Chair, is an amendment that would allow the City of Marshall to issue a longer-term wine, malt liquor, intoxicating liquor license at Southwest Minnesota State University. That license would be used to provide liquor at the Schwann's Regional Event Center and the Recreational Athletic Facility at the Southwest State Minnesota campus in Marshall. This is approved by the City Council and the Mayor of Marshall. And also, there's a letter in your packet from the President of SMSU. And also, we have Mr. Nate Polfiat, the Assistant Vice President for Advancement from SMSU, who is on Zoom, that if we would like, he could chime in a little about this, and then we could go from there.
Sure, we'll go to the testifier. Mr. Polfiat, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, and if you have any comments to make about the A2 amendment, go ahead with those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, and thank you for allowing me to testify remotely. My name is Nathan Polfleet, and I serve as the Associate Vice President for Advancement at Southwest Minnesota State University in Marshall. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today in support of the legislation that would allow the City of Marshall to consider awarding a limited alcohol license to SMSU for the Schwann Regional Event Center and our Recreation Athletic Facility. These venues are university's central locations for athletic competitions, and our athletic events play a vital role in fostering community engagement. Allowing the City of Marshall the ability to authorize a limited alcohol license would strengthen the guest experience at our games and other events, enhance our facility appeal, and reduce the administrative burden associated with securing approvals. Under the current system, we must apply for a temporary license from the city for each event, creating repetition and delay. The limited license we're requesting authority to pursue would be narrow in scope and tightly controlled. Alcohol sales would be restricted to beer, wine, and seltzers at fixed concession locations in these venues. We would maintain a written alcohol policy, comply with all state and local licensing requirements, and ensure the responsible service practices are consistently followed. Our proposal also fully aligns with the updated NCAA guidelines on alcohol sales. Institutions nationwide have adopted similar measures in recent years. Recognizing the responsible alcohol services enhances the spectator experience while maintaining a safe, family-friendly environment. This limited license will allow us to modernize our spectator offerings, improve the overall game day experience, and help us remain competitive in attracting events and attendance. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for your support in granting the City of Marshall the legislative authority needed to consider this limited license. This is a carefully planned request that will strengthen community engagement and support the vitality of our region. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you again for your time and for your continued support of higher education and community partnerships in Minnesota.
Well, thank you, Mr. Polfleet. Senator Latz, any comments on the A2?
Mr. Chairman, members, I would consider this to be a friendly amendment.
Other member comments on the A2? Seeing none, all in favor of the A2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is adopted. We have another amendment from Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move the A1 amendment.
Senator Rasmussen offers the A1 amendment, also in your packets. Senator Rasmussen, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to offer this amendment today on Senator Latz's bill. This would allow the city of Earhart to have a on-sale liquor license for their community park. They reached out to me and asked for this legislation so that for their softball, baseball, athletic events at their concession stand would be able to have a liquor license. The language in front of you is nearly identical to other provisions in state law when we have a municipality coming out to request a special liquor license. I do have, Mr. Chair, Gary Statham, who's the mayor of Earhart, who can talk about some of the rationale for this, or if members have any questions.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Mayor Statham, are you with us?
I am.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know your thoughts on the A1, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and community. My name is Gary Statham, Mayor of Earhart. Population 130 people. We have a great community park with 2 softball fields, 2 pickleball courts, playground equipment, and a great Veterans Memorial. The community comes out on Tuesday nights to watch some awesome softball. They would like to come and have a burger and a hot dog, a beer and a drink. But at this time, the city cannot grant itself a liquor license. We can grant one to somebody else, but not to the city. This would really help us raise some funds to put right back into our park. As you know, our small city only gets enough funding to take care of the basic necessities our city has. So if we can have events where we can sell alcohol, it would help. We are trying to raise money for some new playground equipment that is going to be about $40,000. So this would help us raise some funds for that. 100% of what we make at the park goes right back into the park. And I appreciate the opportunity to testify for you. And I'd like to thank Senator Rasmussen for his work and concern for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Member comments on the A1? There are none. All in favor of the A1, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is adopted. Further amendments from the committee. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the A3 amendment, please.
The A3 is offered by Senator Frentz. Is it in our packet? It's in our packets. To your amendment, Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. Thank you, Senator Latz. The A3 amendment addresses a need for an exemption. I'd like to start by saying thank you, Senator Latz, for your leadership last session on these bills. Not only do I think that you showed professionalism, I think you showed a little bit of restraint, and you have my full support bringing this back. And sometimes we need a little more cool thinking. So with that, members, the A3 amendment is necessary because some local governments, and with the support of a state agency, are requiring long-term care facilities to essentially get a liquor license to hold a happy hour. I've recently attended a gathering of about 300 advocates for leading age. This was a great concern of theirs and seems to me potentially where the government's going too far and requiring too much of our citizens for what should be common sense approaches. Basically, this is requiring grandma and grandpa to have a liquor license before a facility can serve them alcohol for a happy hour type setting, which is what they've been doing for a long time. This amendment, Mr. Chair, would simply create an exemption when it is within the facility and for residents. And I remind the members of the committee that these facilities are already regulated for safety, for food. They're already inspected by the department. To have the Department of Public Safety come by seems redundant. And at a time when Minnesotans are asking us, can we please use some common sense in some of these things, I think this particular requirement goes a bit too far. I understand there are questions that the department has. I don't believe it's anyone's desire to eliminate happy hour for grandma and grandpa. And I would be happy to see this resolved another way. But having discussed this with Senator Latz, I wanted to offer the A3 amendment for discussion here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Frentz, and I'll let the author speak to it, but I will say as chair that this is a really common sense measure. I think your characterization of sort of prohibiting these happy hours in care facilities is government overreach. That's absolutely accurate, and hopefully we can move this forward. The bill in front of us today, Senator Latz's bill, is quite clearly tailored to become a local projects bill only. I think we should keep it that way for the sake of trying to get it through the process this year. I support your policy, and I hope it's introduced as a separate bill or that we have another mechanism to get it completed, and I'll let the author speak to the amendment as well, but I'm hopeful that you will withdraw the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I simply echo your comments, and I prefer not to see this put on this bill because I think it may jeopardize the ability to pass the local projects that are in here.
Other comments on the A3? Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. Thank you, Senator Latz. You have my commitment to continue working on this. And Mr. Chair, that includes reaching out to the Department of Public Safety. And with that, I would withdraw the A3 amendment.
A3 is withdrawn. Are there further member comments or amendments on the underlying bill? If there are none, Senator Latz will offer the motion. The question is on the motion of Senator Latz that Senate File 3545 as amended be recommended to pass and be sent to the Senate floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is adopted. The bill is on general orders. Members, that is the end of our business today. There is no committee this coming Thursday. We will meet again next Tuesday, March 3rd. Committee is adjourned.